Hey, what's up, noobs? It's the Dead Noob. I'm going to go ahead and get another video out of the way this week. This time I want to talk about Bullet Sponge. What is it? Why do devs use it? And why does it make the game so damn difficult? Gamers love a challenge, but nobody loves dumping 3 full mags into an enemy who looks like he skipped leg day and chest day. Today we're going to break down the debate of Bullet Sponge. Is it difficulty or is it just a cheap excuse for a dev? So why do players hate it? Why do devs defend it? And where the truth actually sits in between. So to kick things off, what is a bullet sponge? Well, a bullet sponge is an enemy that takes way more damage than it seems necessary to drop them. You shoot, they shrug it off. You reload, and they're still coming at you like it's cardio day. And depending on the game, they can either feel really intense or just super fucking annoying. Health is the easiest dial to turn. If they want to fight to last longer, they bump up the HP. It's reliable, it's measurable, and it doesn't break the rest of the game's systems. So for a little bit of a deeper dive, when the devs talk about difficulty tuning, they're basically talking about a giant control panel full of sliders. Enemy accuracy, reaction time, movement speed, damage output, AI behavior trees. All of that is complicated, interconnected, and risky to mess with. But enemy health, that's the cleanest, safest slider in the entire system. When a developer increases HP, they know exactly what they're getting. If they want to fight to last longer, like 20% longer, they can literally calculate how much health to add. It's predictable, it's stable, and most importantly, it doesn't break the rest of the system. Changing AI behavior can cause bugs, change damage values that make the game feel unfair. Changing movement speed can break animations or pathfinding. But changing health, that's like adding more sandbags to a target. Everything else works the same. This is why health becomes the go-to difficulty knob. It's measurable, it's controllable, and it scales cleanly across the entire game, whether you're level 1 or level 50, whether you're solo or in a squad, whether you're using a pistol or a rocket launcher. HP is the one variable devs can always rely on to stretch a fight without rewriting the entire combat system. Lazy, but effective. Alright, so on to the next point. Avoiding the cheap shot, or the one tap. Players hate dying instantly. If devs crank up the enemy damage instead of health, the game feels unfair. But if enemies survive longer, players feel like they're being tested, not punished. One-shot kills, or one-taps, sound hardcore, until you're the one getting deleted, making you hit Control-Alt-Delete and rage quitting. And developers know this. They're watching the telemetry, the rage quits, the uninstall spikes. Instant death is the fastest way to make players feel the game is cheating. Here's the problem. When an enemy kills you in a single hit, it removes your ability to respond. There's no counterplay. There's no adaption. There's no learning movement. You don't think, I should have played smarter. You think, that's bullshit. Very guilty of that myself. So instead of cranking up enemy damage, devs crank up enemy health. It stretches the encounter out without turning every fight into a coin flip. You get time to react, reposition, heal, swap weapons, or call for help. You feel like you're in the fight, not being punished for stepping into the wrong hallway. And from a design standpoint, high damage is volatile. A tiny tweak can break the entire difficulty curve. A 10% damage increase might turn a fair fight into an instant wipe. But adding health? That scales smoothly. It's predictable. It keeps the tension without the frustration. This is why tankier enemies feel like a challenge, but high damage enemies feel like a trap. One tests your endurance and decision making, the other just tests your patience. And the last point I'll present on the dev side of the house is the encouragement for tactical play. Tankier enemies force players to use cover, abilities, teamwork, and positioning. It slows the pace and pushes strategy, especially in co-op shooters and RPG hybrids where coordination matters. When enemies can't be deleted in half a second, the whole rhythm of combat shifts. Suddenly, you can't just sprint into a room, hip-firing everything, and call it a day. Tankier enemies force you to think, and that's exactly what many devs want. When the enemy survives longer, the player has to start making decisions. Where's my cover? What's my angle? How do I push or fall back? Which ability do I burn first? Who's the priority target? The fight becomes a puzzle instead of a shooting gallery. In co-op shooters and RPG hybrids, this effect multiplies. A tanky enemy becomes a team problem, not an individual one. You need someone drawing aggro, someone applying debuffs, someone pumping damage, someone healing or supporting. Suddenly, position matters, timing matters, communication matters. Tankiness slows the pace just enough to create space for strategy. It gives players time to coordinate, to combo abilities, to flank, to set traps, to use the environment. It turns a chaotic firefight into a tactical engagement. And here's the secret. Devs know that when players are forced to use their full toolkit, grenades, abilities, buffs, debuffs, synergies, the game feels deeper, more intentional, more rewarding. Tanky enemies are the lever that pushes players out of autopilot and into an actual tactical play. And now I'll present 3 points that are against the bullet sponge as a use of difficulty. Breaking immersion. When a normal human enemy eats 200 rounds to the chest, the fantasy collapses. It stops feeling like combat and starts feeling like you're fighting a walking mattress, or you're using pillows for bullets. Every game asks you to buy into the fantasy, whatever the setting may be. The world only works if the rules feel consistent. But the moment a regular human enemy absorbs 200 rounds to the chest and keeps jogging towards you like a memory foam mattress with legs, the illusion shatters. It's not just unrealistic, it's totally wrong. Your brain goes, wait, what am I fighting? A guy? A mutant? A mattress with a gun? And once the question pops up, the immersion is gone. Tankiness works when the enemy looks tanky. Armored brutes, mechs, monsters, shield units. But when the dude is a hoodie and jeans and survives enough lead to sink a floating boat, the fantasy collapses. It stops feeling like combat and starts feeling like you're shooting at props. And here's the kicker. Players notice this instantly. They don't think, clever difficulty scaling. They think, why is this guy built like a refrigerator? That disconnect pulls you out of the world. Instead of reacting to threats, you're reacting to design decisions. Instead of feeling tension, you're feeling disbelief. Instead of immersion, you get irritation. This is why devs have to be careful. Tankiness is a powerful tool, but if it's not justified visually, narratively, or mechanically, it becomes a joke. And nothing kills immersion faster than realizing the enemies aren't people. They're just hit point piñatas. Point 2. Artificial difficulty instead of real challenge. Players want smarter enemies, not just tankier ones. Bullet sponges often feel like a shortcut. Difficulty created by numbers, not by design. Here's one thing that players will never stop saying. I don't want enemies with more health. I want enemies with more brains. And they're right. There's a huge difference between a real challenge and artificial difficulty. The real challenge comes from smarter positioning, coordinated enemy behavior, flanking, suppression, varied attack patterns, enemies reacting to your tactics. Artificial difficulty is just, numbers. More HP, more armor, more time wasted. When a dev turns an enemy into a bullet sponge, it often feels like a shortcut, a way to make the game harder without actually improving the encounter. The difficulty created by math, not by design, and players can smell that from a mile away. A smarter enemy forces you to adapt. A tanky enemy forces you to reload. One tests your decision making, the other tests your patience. And here's the real kicker. Players want to feel outplayed, not outstatted. When an enemy flanks you, suppresses you, or forces you out of cover, you think, okay, that was clever. When an enemy just absorbs 40 shotgun blasts to the face, you think, okay, that's lazy. Bullet sponges don't make the game deeper. They just make it longer. And when difficulty is stretched by padding instead of design, the illusion of the challenge collapses. It stops feeling like a tactical fight and starts feeling like a job. My third and final point, it drains pacing and player satisfaction. Combat loses its rhythm when every fight turns into a DPS check. Instead of feeling powerful, players feel like they're doing chores. And nothing kills fun faster than repetitive, drawn-out encounters. Combat has a rhythm, a pulse. Good encounters rise and fall like a heartbeat, bursts of action, moments to breathe, spikes of danger, quick victories that make you feel sharp and capable. But when every enemy turns into a DPS check, that rhythm flatlines. Instead of flowing from one encounter to the next, the game starts feeling like you're clocking in for a shift. Shoot, reload, repeat until boredom sets in. Tanky enemies stretch every fight past its natural lifespan. What should be a tense 10-second skirmish becomes a 45-second slog, and the longer it drags on, the more the player's emotional engagement bleeds out. You're not thinking about tactics anymore. You're thinking about how long is this going to take. And here's the real problem. It kills the power fantasy. Players want to feel strong, efficient, dangerous. When your weapon barely dents a grunt, you don't feel powerful. You feel underpaid. You feel like your gear doesn't matter and the game is wasting your time. Repetitive drawn-out encounters don't build tension. They build fatigue. They don't make you feel challenged. They make you feel stalled. They don't reward mastery. They punish persistence. And once combat becomes a chore, everything else collapses with it. Exploration feels slower. Progression feels weaker. Even story beats lose impact because the player is mentally drained from the grind. That's the danger of bullet sponge design. It doesn't make fights longer. It makes the entire game feel heavier, slower, and less satisfying. Alright, so who's right and who's wrong? The truth is, bullet sponges can work, and games built around them. Think looter shooters, RPG hybrids, or boss-centric games. But when they show up in grounded shooters or tactical games, they feel lazy, out of place, and straight up frustrating. The truth is, bullet sponges aren't automatically bad. They're a tool. And like any tool, they only work when they're used in the right way. In looter shooters, RPG hybrids, and boss-centric games, tankiness is part of the fantasy. You're supposed to grind gear, stack buffs, melt enemies with optimized builds. High HP enemies make sense there because their entire combat loop is built around damage output, cooldown rotations, and team synergies. A bullet sponge in Destiny or The Division feels normal because the game is designed around it. But drop that same enemy into a grounded shooter, a tactical game where weapons are meant to feel lethal, and encounters are meant to be quick and decisive, and suddenly it feels wrong, like Tarkov. Bullet sponges there don't make sense. It breaks immersion, it breaks pacing, it breaks the fantasy. In a milsim or realistic shooter, tankiness doesn't feel like a challenge, it feels like the devs slapped a band-aid on the difficulty curve. In all honesty, both sides have a point. Players are right to hate bullet sponges in games where realism, lethality, and tactical decision-making are the core experience. Devs are right to use them in games where progression, builds, and long-form encounters are the entire point. The real issue isn't tankiness, it's context. Bullet sponges work when the game is built around them. They fail when it's used as a shortcut. When the design supports it, tankiness feels like strategy. When the design doesn't, it feels like padding. And that's the line the developers have to walk. Use bullet sponges where they enhance experience, and avoid them where they undermine it. As a player, you're going to hate and love both of these. From a personal standpoint, I try to avoid games where this is used as a lazy excuse. And a lot of games do this, simply because it's the easiest button to push. If players start complaining that the game feels easy, or it doesn't have a tactical advantage, then the developers will just ratchet up the health. That will make the encounters feel longer or more difficult. But that's not really the case. Does this give the developers time to come up with a strategy where they can increase the tactical advantage of AI over the player, or in some instances, create some kind of mechanic where the player has to learn a tactic in order to defeat a boss? Either way, it's on the player to make that decision. I can't make that decision for you. So the next time you're unloading a full mag into an enemy that refuses to die, remember, sometimes it's a design choice, and sometimes it's just a band-aid. So drop a comment with the worst bullet sponge game you've ever played. Hit the like button, share, and subscribe for more tactical breakdowns. And as always, be good or be good at it.